Okay, hi guys, welcome to my first video tutorial for RetroX. Actually, first video tutorial full stop. Been meaning to do something like this for a while, so thought might as well bite the bullet, go for it. There's been a few requests, a few comments on Discord and the Facebook group saying that really useful to do a video, show how you can start making your own themes and how it works. So that's hopefully the idea of this video. So go straight to it. Best place to start is obviously the RetroX website, so retrox.tv/themes. Here is a list of the official themes, so obviously a good place to start would be to download one of these, have a look, so basically see how it works, how it's structured, how the XML file is structured, and what you need to do to change various bits and pieces. And there's also the unofficial ones, which obviously they're unofficial, but they are included in RetroX theme menu. So when you browse through, you'll be able to see all these, click on the one you want, it'll download and install. And so when you pick these through that option, they go through to a system folder. And unless you've got a rooted device, you won't be able to get to that folder, so you can't really download them that way, tweak them, play with them, and sort of edit them. The way to do that is to download them manually, or again create your own theme from scratch, and then on your Android device within the retrox.data folder, there'll be a subfolder called themes. If it's not there, create it, and then put a folder containing your theme in there. The next time you launch RetroX, the theme will be there. I'll show you this in a minute. So basically there's two ways of getting the themes on, and obviously if you do it that second way, that's how you can sort of put your own theme on, your own personal customized theme that or just for testing, and then when you're happy that it's good, you think it's good enough to be included in RetroX, you can submit it to Franco, and hopefully if it meets with his approval, which I'm sure it would, you get it added into the repository, so it's available for everyone else. So yeah, it's a good place to start. Here you can download all these other awesome themes and have a look at them and see how they're put together. And there's a tutorial here which Franco put together. I don't think it's not actually complete yet, but it's a very good start, and explains all about the XML file, which is basically what controls and defines the theme. And basically, that XML is what you need to configure to change. Obviously, the artwork that you put into certain folders, but the XML is what basically says what is drawn where on screen, and what text is shown, what color it is, location, size, all that kind of stuff. So Franco's suggestion in here is to download the pure dark theme, basic theme, and have a look at it. So that's what we're going to do. It explains here about some of the folders. So well, I've got it downloaded already. So puredark.zip, so just over a meg in size, not very big. So just expand that here. So pure dark. So here it is. Here's the layout of the theme. It's pretty basic, and it's kind of explained here. So you've got your theme XML in the root. It's the only XML there is. It's always called theme.xml, doesn't change. And the fonts folder, quite self-explanatory, contains the fonts that you want to use in the theme. The images one, as it mentions here, is the kind of sort of generic images that aren't for a specific system, or specific console or PC or computer. They're general images that are used throughout the theme. You can see in here you've got theme.png, which is the little thumbnail that you see when you browse it in RetroX, and there's standard backgrounds, and also the star pictures which are used in this theme, and other themes. When you look at the game information, you get the star rating of the game, and obviously these are used to display that star rating on screen. The main bulk of the artwork, etc., and videos, and all the stuff, the good stuff to make it look nice, is in here. So you've got pretty much a folder per system. As I've noticed, this is an older theme, so it doesn't have all the folders in here. The ones that are missing are the system default folders. So when you browse a theme, you'll notice you've got the all games, recently played, recommended, and favorites. So in here there's no sort of extra theme artwork for them, which is fine. They're just they're listed as text. But in other themes, you'll notice you'll get a folder in here called all, one called recents, one called recommended, one called favorites, and that has artwork for those menu items basically. But it'll all make sense in a minute. So let's take one for example. In here you've got the icon.png, which is this is the icon you'll see on the main system. So this this is this is the theme we're going to be looking at, the dark theme, very basic theme. So these icons here per system are what appear. So you obviously got PlayStation on screen there. If we go down to PSX, there's the PlayStation logo, which is used on the system menu, and then you can see here you've got, this is the actual game selection screen. All this artwork here isn't in the theme. This is the stuff that RetroX itself scrapes by default. So when you play a game, all this artwork is stored on RetroX servers. Then you can go sort of a step beyond that, and you can also add your own artwork in the right folder structure. And there's an article on the RetroX website how to do that. But the easiest way is built into RetroX. There's the MU Sync tool, MU Movies Sync tool, which basically allows you to sync all this data down locally, so it doesn't have to pull it down each time it needs, or as and when it needs it. You can bulk download it pretty much against all systems that do a scrape and pull it down. You can do that with a free account on MU Movies. So it'll pull down the box art images, screenshots, gameplay images, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to get the video snaps, which in my opinion makes a world of difference, makes it look much nicer than a theme, you need a paid account with MU Movies to do that. Also, there's nothing to stop you sourcing them elsewhere and copying them manually into the right folders in the RetroX artwork folder. You can do that, but with the MU Sync tool, it's so much easier, and it doesn't cost that much for an MU Movies subscription. I did it a few months ago, and it's well worth it. So I'd recommend that. So rather than talking about it, let's actually see it in action. And the other thing I'll say is just how I do the testing is, obviously my Android device is a NVIDIA Shield, but it's in another room of the house. It's connected to the main TV, and also the kids are in there, and I think they wouldn't want me going in there every 5 minutes to test and update to a theme and then come back and then go back again, and then you've got to transfer the files backs and forwards. So it's much easier to have an Android machine here. So I'm running Windows 10 desktop, but if you free download the Android Studio, you can download this for free. You see, this is how it looks. It looks quite complicated here. This is all the, if someone's creating an app, this is where you would do the coding, but built in, you can see here is this emulator. So it basically emulates a Android device for us. Here you can see it running. It's running as a phone, in phone mode there, but within the emulator, you'll see in a second, you can create the Android TV version, which is what we'll use. So you download that, install it. I believe it's available for Windows and other operating systems. Yeah, so Windows, Mac and Linux, and even for Chrome OS, interestingly. So yeah, download, install that. It's probably the first step. If you do it this way, you can do it your own way, obviously, but I find it much easier this way. So open up the Android Studio. It looks like this. You might get prompted with a wizard when you first start, which will ask you to create a new project, but either cancel that or just create an empty one. And then once you're in, you've got this little icon up top here, which is the AVD, the Android Virtual Device Manager. I've already got it open here. See, so I've created a virtual device based on Android TV, run at 1080p, Android version 9. So I can just click and run that. But to create a new device, it's really easy. You click on create there. We're going to create a TV version. So yeah, TV 1080p. That's nice. I tend to stick to version 9 of Android rather than going to the latest version, just in case there's any issues. So 9 works fine for me, but pick whatever you want. Click next, and then you can basic information, orientation. And for RetroX, it makes sense to be landscape. Scroll down here, you can change bits and pieces, but you go to advanced is where you can change all the bits and pieces, like the number of CPU, give it extra RAM, all that kind of stuff. And you don't really need to change any of this unless you want to. The only thing I did do was change the SD card. I think I changed mine to 10 gig, because obviously we're just testing the themes, but you want to put some games in and also some artwork so you can actually test it. So 10 gig should be more than enough. And the way I've done it in my image is just copy a subset of games across. Obviously not my full ROM set, because that's gigs and gigs and gigs. I've just done, like say, roughly I think about 10 the first 10 games from each system I've copied across. And then for some of the larger systems, like PlayStation, that's got an ISO image, rather than copying hundreds of megs across, I've just taken the name of the ISO, created a blank text file and renamed it to .iso. So it's basically a 1K file. But obviously, it would never work, but RetroX sees it as, you've got the game, got the ISO, and adds it to the list. So, but you'll see that in a second. So when you're finished, you click finish here, it'll come in the list. You click the little play icon to start the emulator, and when it does, it starts up like this. Now, I've already installed RetroX. Also, this is standard Android. You could go and in here, open up the browser, go to RetroX website, download the APK and install it that way. But what's much easier to do is also part of the Android Studio is a command line tool called ADB. And I've got some commands written down already in here of what to do. So there's a whole bunch of commands you do ADB. The main ones we want is the ADB push, which is basically copy. So copy from A to B. So it basically allows us to work on a theme on a machine, do a push and copy it up to the VM, sorry, the virtual Android machine, and then run it. And it's really quick, really simple. So I'll just show you that as well, because we'll. So what I'll do is I'll just go here. Too lazy to type it in. It's hidden in a subfolder. So yeah, so it's the exit that's in there. So we've now got that there. And you can do other things with this ADB tool. You can actually connect to the virtual machine from a command prompt type, you know, if you're into that kind of stuff, and manipulate it that way. But for this we don't need to. So let's actually get into the actual theme section. So I use Notepad++ just because of the layout. You know, it color codes the XML for you and just lays it out nicely. So this is a basic XML. You see it's broken down into sections. You've got some sort of default information at the top here. There's a section to define which fonts you want to use, and then there's a section for all these different styles. So you can reference these later on. So you can create different styles that use different fonts at different sizes, and again different colors. So you can kind of create your default font size and color, and then further down here where you're defining text on screen, you've got style equals, and that style will be, so for example, select a title is somewhere here. Select a title. So the games count text that appears on the screen. So obviously in the system shows you how many games you've got for that system. Here's where you change sort of the style, the font it uses, the size of the font, and the color. So you define them all here. And then down here, the two main sections you really want to worry about, which you spend most of your time, is you've got screen selector, which is system selector. So if we look on that screenshot, the system selector basically, you know, where you browse through the different systems, and then game selection, where you actually look at all the games, which is this section here. And then there's a bit right at the bottom. The third one is the splash screen, which at the moment you just specify a background for it, and you can see again on that screenshot that's a splash screen. Yeah, that we all love and know that when you first start RetroX, that you get this splash screen where it loads up and it's checking for updates, it's syncing your game saves, etc. So you can change the background there. I think there's a feature coming where you can do like an intro video, but I think that's coming. That might be a spoiler, but I think that's coming at some point, and you'll be able to define in here video equals, you know, whatever .mp4 and play it, and I guess obviously the size and location of that video. So anyway, what we'll do is just to see how it works and see how the method I use, and you know, see how easy or complex it can be. We've got this theme here, which is the default. This stuff here that I mentioned is pretty important. It kind of sets the name and information for the theme. So the version format I think is used by RetroX itself. So this is a version 1 of the theme. So I think Franco had in mind, for those that know, Franco's the developer of RetroX. What he had in mind is that if he then improved or changed the way the theme worked, you could have like a different version of a theme. So if you had a version 2 theme, it might rely on newer features and options that a version theme 1 didn't need or didn't use. So at the moment you can kind of ignore that, leave that as version 1. Size I'll come back to in a second. Debug, I don't use it, but it is quite an useful thing, where is if you turn that on, it then displays, when you're using the theme, it basically put boxes around the different artwork where they should appear. So if something's not working right or not aligning, or you can't see it, if you enable that, it will basically enables a line around your artwork. And I think Franco mentioned it here. Yeah, so these are the different options at the top. And so debugging, yeah, so we'll draw a red rectangle where the image goes, so it will help you find, you know, sizing issues, etc. So yeah, that's what that does. The name, self-explanatory, that's the name as it appears in the theme list. Mode dark is the default. I think you can have light or dark. Basically that just means that if you're in dark, when you're in RetroX, any dialog boxes that pop up will either be dark or light, and I think it's pretty like a dark grey or a light grey, almost white, but I tend to stick dark. I think I prefer the look of it. And then this version number, different from the version format, but this is the version number of the theme. So if I create a new theme, it'll be version 1, and when I'm happy with it, it stays at version 1. Send it to Franco, he uploads it to the repository, people hopefully download it and use it and like it. If I then make a tweak or a change, I'll change this to say version 2, version 3, version 4, whatever the next one is, send it to Franco, he uploads it, and that's when you go into RetroX and you look at the themes. If it says brackets updated next to it, it knows that there's a newer version available, and you click on it, it'll download the new version for you. So you just increment that if you have multiple versions and updates of the theme. So while I'm in here, I'm just going to make this test, so when we put it into RetroX, we can easily find it. And just go back to this size one, which is probably the most important thing. So what this does, this defines, you can see down here you've got the position size of all the different elements we've got in here, and these sizings are scaled on whatever you set here. So I tend to leave it at 720, that's the default, and I think that's what Franco recommended. But you could set this to 1080 instead if you're doing based on full HD. And it doesn't really matter what you set it to, it doesn't affect the end size, it's just the scaling. So it basically means that RetroX will scale it based on the 720 sizing. So as an example of that, because it might be slightly hard to explain, actually I wonder if Franco explains it better in here. So size, the target resolution for RetroX will automatically scale your theme to the target resolution and recommend you stick with 720. So pretty much what I said, hopefully. So so for example, we've got actually if we upload it, and then we can actually see what we're looking at the same time. Didn't mean to do that. Try and grab that, there we go. Right, so what I want to do is push that theme up into RetroX first, the first time. So I've got it written here, so ADB push from ctemp RetroX Pure Dark folder up to the SD card. This is the RetroX data I was talking about folder, the themes, and then a folder for my theme. So this is where you'd manually copy your theme when you want to test it. So put that in there, hit enter, boom, done. I know it's only a small theme, but it's really that quick. So now we switch in here. You can use the mouse in here, but I tend to use the arrow keys on the keyboard and enter. So we'll launch RetroX. Ooh, see, sneak preview. This is the theme I'm working on at the moment. So we'll just change that. And user interface. Go down to theme. Oh no, wrong one. I was going to say also there, I've changed the user interface already to TV mode with themes to enable themes mode. So theme. You go in here. That's the one I'm working on. That's the default Pure Dark. Actually, I know what I didn't do. I didn't save the XML, did I? So you can see here all the different themes. See, emulator works fine, but I've got a slightly older PC, so the emulator does struggle a little bit, but it works fine. So if I go back here, so look, obviously for those that know Notepad Plus, it's in red, so it's not saved. So I just click save to save it. And this is the good bit. I can go back to here, arrow to repeat the last command, hit enter, and it copies it again. So now I can go back to RetroX, probably come out of here, go back in, go to themes, and now you see the name's changed to Pure Dark Test, so we'll enter that. So this is a standard theme that we're working with, and you can see all the icons there, and also the icons that I mentioned before in each system folder sit there. And these are the all systems recently played, and you can see they've got there's no logo, there's no sort of no different artwork for it, which is why the folders don't exist. But if you created a folder called all, for example, and put a different logo in there, that would change this logo to whichever one you put in. And that might be a good example we'll do in a second. But But if we go back here, so we can actually see what happens. So as I was saying about the sizing, everything's based on that 720p, so 1280 across, 720 down. So here we've got the position is 0, so that's going to start. So this first measurement is your horizontal, starting left to right. The second measurement is from the top to bottom, obviously starting at the top. So this is the two rectangles defined here, starting at 0, so they're going to start at the left hand side of the screen, and then they're going to start 225 pixels down the screen, and they're going to be 1280 wide, so the full width of the screen, and 200 thick. Same for this one, starts on the left hand side, goes the full width of the screen, starts at 425 down the screen, and is only 40 wide. So if you look at the theme, that is this grey box here. So you can see that they both start at 0, start on the left hand side. This first one starts at 225 here, this one starts at 425 here, this one's 200 wide, or tall, however you want to call it, this one's only 40. So you can see then if you manipulate this, so I can say, okay, this one I'll double it in size, I'll make it 80. Click save, go to your command prompt, up arrow. So this is where having the emulator and having that command line tool is so much quicker, rather than me then having to transfer this over to my Shield, go in, kick the kids off the TV, reload the image, reload the theme, and try it. It'll take way too long. So come back here, go to themes, go to theme. You don't need to move around, just hit enter on it again to reselect it. And now you can see this box is now twice as wide. So that's a very basic example of how, what you change in here is how it changes. So just before I move on, I will put that back to how it was. So that's the rectangles that are drawn. The selector is the actual game selector itself, so that's the actual menu here. System menu as you move across, and then again you've got the same kind of stuff, the position of where it starts, and then this one actually starts at -200, so it starts off to the left of the screen. I guess that's just to give it the appearance of stretching and wrapping around maybe, and it starts 225 down the screen, so you see it starts at the same point as the rectangle, so it sits inside the rectangle, although because it's below it, it's on top of the rectangle. So that's the other important thing, that the order that you put these lines is the order they appear on the screen. So these two rectangles are kind of the bottom layer, if you like. You then have the selector on top, you have the games count on top of that. So if you've got anything that are in the same positions that overlap, anything that's below will be the last thing drawn on screen, so that will be the thing that will be on top, if that makes sense. So yeah, back to this selector, you've got the same position, size, padding. I think it's just the gap around the outside, or the gap between each icon, and again you've got the size of it. So again, so it's wider than the screens, because we're based on 720. The total width of the screen is going to be 1280, but this is 1680, so it's that's why where the -200 comes in. It's off the screen slightly. So and then number of items that you see on the menu at the same time is 3. So you can see 3 here. It's the 3 here. Zoom is when you select a system. You can see the icon. You see the Atari 2600 here. As I move across to it, it zooms. It gets slightly bigger, and that's the figure there. I don't know if it's a percentage or a pixel size, but that's the amount it gets bigger. And alpha is sort of level transparency. So you can see the one like a Amiga here to the side. It's very slightly transparent. When you come to it, it's no transparency at all. When you go away from it, it goes goes transparent slightly. So that's what those figures do. So just an example to change this. So at the moment we've got 3 figures, 3 items. So we do 5 items on screen at a time. Click save, go to here, up arrow. I'm probably going to keep saying it a few times, but doing it this way with the emulator and the ADB command line makes it so much quicker, because a lot of the time you'll spend changing artwork, changing settings, pushing it across, testing it, see if it works. If it doesn't, come back, change it again. So again, you can see now we've got 5 things. Like I say, it starts off the screen. We have got 5 items on screen, and it's shrunk them down to accommodate that, so they all fit on. So it's dynamically sizing it. And other bits and pieces on it. The game count is a standard predefined item in here. So you can see the game count on screen, which is here if you had a system with any games in. I've only added, I think I added 3D at the moment. I haven't added any other systems, which is why that doesn't show up. Basically there, so 10 items, so the game count, the position, the size, aligned to the center, and the style is select a title, which I think is what I mentioned earlier. You've got select a title, so that's the font and size and color that you use for that text. So you can tweak it, modify it how you wish. So let's just go into quickly how you do images. So like I mentioned before, the all systems and recently played don't have any images. So just see if this works. So for all systems, if I create a new folder in here called all, and then what I'll do is just pull an image from one of my other themes. What was the latest one? So you see in here we've got all systems. So laid out the same, but we have got an all folder, and you'll see all the different artwork. And for obviously for this theme, this nostalgic theme, it uses a video background. So we've got that icon there. So if we just take a copy of that, go back to where we were under 10, Spirit Arc, and then all. If I pop that in there as icon.png, then I can come back to my command prompt, up arrow to recopy, copies everything across, and then if I reapply this, there you go. Now all systems has a nice icon. Obviously the others don't, but we don't worry about that. So yeah, that's kind of how you do it. That's kind of how easy it is, and it just takes time to build up from there. You know, sourcing different artwork. I mean, a lot of the artwork I use, I get online. I get from MU Movies, from different forums. There is some artwork that I've modified myself and created myself, but on the whole, obviously I'm no graphic artist. I get the artwork from either themes that I've seen up elsewhere, I use those for inspiration, or a lot of the first themes I pulled across were actually from Emulation Station, because the themes are laid out very similar. They're not exactly the same, but they're laid out similar. But I would sort of go in and pull the artwork and manually pull it across, and maybe I'll show that in a minute. But I just wanted to show you when you actually go into a game system. So 3DO is the one I've added so far. So yeah, got a full list. Obviously all the videos are playing here because I've already got the artwork pre-scraped, which is why they're in there. So what we'll do, we'll just see how this relates to the XML. No, I don't want the version. So you'll see here, so we go down, we've got this section here, which is the game selection screen. If I can get these roughly side by side. Yeah, it doesn't quite fit. Blonde Justice. Interesting game, anyway. So game selector, so you got a whole bunch of stuff on here. So you got all this stuff about the icon that appears at the top. That's referring to the icon here, the real simulator. And then there's a whole bunch of text here around the game. You got the image, which is a screenshot, and then you got the next one, which is the video, which is playing now. And just on that, you can see that you've got an image, which will be shot one will be an in-game screenshot, one of the default bits of artwork that RetroX, I've mentioned before, scrapes already. And then you've got a video, so if you've got your MU Movies paid account, you can scrape the video, and you'll notice that these are both at the same position and the same size, all the same settings. So basically what this will do, because they're in this order, if you happen to have both, the video one is what you'll see, because the video will be on top because it's second in the list, so it's displayed, it's the very top layer. If you don't have the video scraped and it doesn't exist, then obviously you won't see it, and you'll see the screenshot. So that's just kind of doing it this way covers, because obviously not every user is going to have a paid MU Movies account. They're not going to have all the video artwork scraped, so you don't want them just to have a blank screen. If they don't have a video, you want them to see something there. So you have they see shot one instead of the video. So that's kind of how that works. all this stuff here is text, the rating, the year, developer, etc., and that's the style that it uses, the font size and color. And again, see, they've all got size, so they're all aligned, they're all 410 in, but then at incrementing positions. So that relates, so they're all 410, they're all lined up, but then on the vertical, they're, the vertical increments, so they're all underneath each other basically. And these are the star icons I mentioned before. They're displayed there. And then the game description is here, which is here. Look. So game description. Position, it's 60 in from the left, 430 down from the top. It's this size. The style is game description. So game description, so it's font size 20, text white dim. So you can kind of see how you build it all up. So yeah, I think that's kind of it. The other thing I was going to mention was you had this function here where it goes over the top. There is another similar function, which is the replace function, that actually exists. I've used that before on another system. So again, if I just refer back to one of my other, where am I going? Concentrate. Android. So if I go back to one of my other themes, find one that actually does that. I'm sure Nostalgic does. So if I open up the XML for this one, I can move this across so you can see them side by side. There's a bit more, but so it's, even though it's a more complex theme and got more artwork in it, the actual XML isn't really any bigger. This green bit here is commented out. This is a handy feature in XML for those that don't know it. If you put in the less than, exclamation mark, dash dash, and then dash dash greater than, wrap that around them, it basically comments them out so that they don't get applied, but they're still there, so you don't lose them. If you tweak something, take it out, you can comment it out so it gets removed, and then you can add it back in at a later date if you want. So if you take this out, you can see now it's all, if I move up here and put it in here, it just rems out that one line, or marks out that one line. If I take that back out again, pop it back down there, back how it was. So that's a useful thing, just to, if you put something in you don't like it, but you put a bit of effort into creating it, you don't want to delete it and lose it and have to recreate it in the future, you just rem it out so it's there for reference. So yeah, this replace option is what I've got in here. So I've got something very similar in that we show shot 1 at this position, this size, and it's replaceable, is set to yes. And then below it you've got the video at the same position and size, but it doesn't, its replace is set to no. So that's slightly different to what I wanted to show. That's basically says can it be replaceable, but there's actually a different piece of that I wanted to show, which actually means you can do it, but you can do it with a delay. So let me come out of that one for a minute, because I think it's actually in this latest theme that I was working on. Bring this up, move it across to the other view again. So yeah, if we look down here, and where is it? There we go. Let's move this across a bit. So we've got the video system here, which is, it plays the video for the system. Position starts top left, and it's 1280 by 720, so it's basically a full screen video. It's going to start very top left, do the full width, full depth of the screen, and what happens is it replaces the image system background, which is defined up here. So again, so it starts off by showing a full size, full screen image for the system, and then down here it gets replaced by this video, but after a 3-second delay. So that's kind of the effect you saw briefly in that theme when I first started RetroX. You'd pick a system, it would show full screen artwork, then after a delay of 3 seconds it will start playing this video instead, full screen. So that's a handy feature if you want to sort of create those kind of transition effects from one image to another. Although at the moment this only works for a video replacing an image. You can't post an image or have an image displayed then after say 3-5 second delay show another image in its place. It only works with a video replacing an image. Something I have mentioned to Frank, and in one of the next updates hopefully he's going to change that so you can have images replacing images as well. So it'd be quite a nice way to, when someone's resting on screen, you could have cycling through some different images, for example. So that'd be quite handy. So yeah, I think that's roughly it. Like I say, it's just a case of, I guess, trial and error really. You got the XML here. You kind of tweak the size, tweak the image, copy it in, fire it up in here, see how it looks. If you don't like it, you go back, you tweak again, and then yeah, that's kind of it. I don't think there's much else to explain at this point. Obviously, I'm sure there's tons that I've missed, and I'll think of stuff afterwards. But yeah, I'll put some information in the description, put some links in the description as well. And yeah, obviously I'm on the RetroX Discord server, on the RetroX users group on Facebook. So yeah, just stick any comments on there, or obviously stick some comments on the YouTube video as well. That's obviously where I've uploaded this to. And I think that's kind of it really, to be honest. Yeah, I think you can kind of, obviously I'm no coding expert or anything like that, but when you look at the XML, you can kind of, just by working out, you can see. I mean, it might look a bit daunting at first, but once you see which section does what, and it helps as well within Notepad+. If you can close off different sections. So if you're just working on one different section, you can do this. You're just focused on what you're working on. So this is just the system selector. You see again here, you got the background image. That's in the what I call the shared images location. Actually, that's that new theme again. Go back to where I was in the pure dark theme. So you see you've got BG_main menu, so background main menu is this one here. Looks a bit dark on my screen here, but if I open that in Notepad, you'll see, sorry, not Notepad, Paint.net. If I open that, you'll see what it actually is. You can see it's that kind of mottled effect, and that is the background here. So you want to change that with any kind of artwork, you can do. Obviously, like I say, this theme is quite basic, so that one background is shared across all the other themes. If you wanted to do a separate backdrop per system, so it basically changed as you went across. Obviously, this one doesn't. Again, so I refer back to where I was. Yeah, so there's a bunch of default splashes in here, but if we go into systems, you'll see straight away in here there's a lot more images. So you've got a system background here. So this is a system background I did for this one. Don't say that. So that's for 3DO, and then if I go to a different system, again it's got a completely different background, which is here. And actually that reminds me of the other bit I needed to call out. If I actually open up this theme for a moment, this is the latest thing I was working on, but I'll do the same thing. I'll just close this up so it's easier to look at. So what you can do is there's a number of different IDs for different objects that are kind of built in by default. So there's background images, it's a kind of a standard ID. I think video system is a standard ID. If you do video system, it will look in the system folder for a video.mp4 to play. But then what you can do, if you want to add additional artwork or your own artwork, you create it, but if you prefix it with img_, and then you can create your own artwork. So in here I've got image_RetroX logo HD, here's position, where to align, etc. And then what you'll see is that one, can't remember if it's in shared images or, yeah, it's in a shared image, so image_RetroX. So that's the logo that loads in the center screen. And I've got a few other, like there's image bottom, which is the blue fade that applies to the bottom of the screen. That's there. So yeah, that's how you add all your additional extra images, and that's how you put them. So I think that pretty much covers everything. Again, I'm trying to think of stuff that I've missed. I'm sure there's stuff, but yeah, have a go. Obviously, yeah, ask any questions. If there's anything I missed, I might do a second follow-up video. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you managed to follow it okay. I didn't ramble. Yeah, I can do that sometimes. But anyway, yeah, hope you guys enjoy. Hope it was useful. Let us know either way. And yeah, that's it from me. And I'll catch you all on Facebook or on our Discord server. Enjoy. Cheers.